Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their journey to building their business. And because we know that success in business is not something that we can do on our own, we're taking time to recognize the folks that helped us to excel. Today, I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. My guest is very competitive. We're going to ask him more about this, but he told me that if he can't win, then he doesn't play. So I want to understand that a little more here in a minute. In his downtime, he enjoys doing yard work and the relaxation that brings and the escape from the his business and he's most proud of his family with kids ranging from 23 to 40. And we'll have him tell us a little bit more about his family here in a minute. It's my pleasure to welcome Rick to the show today. Hello, Rick.
Hey there, Tim.
How are
Thanks
you
for
doing?
having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. All right, so let's have you, we'll start with you introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and live and about your family. And then we're going to definitely have you tell us about your competitive spirit.
That's not a good thing, but we can get into that a little bit. So anyway, I'm a Midwesterner at heart. Born in Detroit, lived there for 10 years. Dad was in the auto industry, got transferred down to Toledo. So I was there for the next 10 years. Graduated from Ohio State, which was an interesting story because growing up in Detroit and up in Toledo area, you really grow up as a Michigan fan, which is not a good thing to say. But when it's time to go ahead and pay for college, it was a lot better to go to Ohio State than to Michigan. So as soon as I graduated from Ohio State, I took a job with General Motors just north of Indianapolis. And what I thought was going to be a whistle stop of Indianapolis, I'm now 34 years into it. And I've lived we've lived a long time in Indianapolis. So that wasn't a plan. The other plan was I came out of school as an accounting major at Ohio State. I got an MBA from Ball State. And it was all accounting and finance. And while it was a great base, being very competitive, I found being strictly an accounting and finance background and the jobs that I was gaining, I was more of a scorekeeper. And as a kid, I was super competitive, still super competitive. Loved sports and found that I really wanted to play the game. And I was more of a consultant in the accounting world. So that's when I really worked on trying to transition out of being strictly accounting and moved into more of a financial role, then moved into strategic planning. And then I had a boss one day that said, "Hey, you've been telling me how to fix these different things in operation." She said, "It's all yours." And so her name is Deborah Monzik. She's here in Indianapolis as well. She was a great mentor to me earlier on in my career. And she's the one that took the chance on me to get me out of the finance side and get me to actually playing the game. And so the game has changed for me over the years that I've played. But as recently as 2016, had an opportunity to purchase the company with my business partner, Shelli Austin, that we started in 2003. So and since then, we have grown the business pretty significantly. The last couple of years, we've been on the Inc. 5000 list. This past year, we were listed at 1484. The year before that, we were somewhere around 1514, if I remember right. Fastest growing company here in Indianapolis past couple of years. And then by Indiana Chamber of Commerce, so we were, I think, ranked 25th out of 125 best places to work here in Indianapolis.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Super proud of what we've done. It's definitely a team effort. I've been working, as I said, I've got a business partner for 26 years, Shelli Austin. What she's great at, I'm not so great at, and vice versa. And we've got just a great team of people that have followed us along the way in our careers, and so it's been a successful story. It's been fun to do.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about your family.
Oh, all right. So it's a blended family. Been married to my wife. It will be 14 years in March. We've got 5 kids among us. As you mentioned, it's from 23 to 40. None of them live here in Indiana. As a matter of fact, you always want to teach your kids, follow your dreams, do what you want to do. And I'll tell you what, our kids definitely took that message and ran with it. So we've got a son, his wife, and 2 grandchildren in Hawaii. And then we've got two other sons. One's in DC, another one's in Boston. We've got a daughter in Charlotte, and our youngest is he's in Colorado. He's in his last year at Colorado State, so and he's at 23. So we've got them all over. Great place to visit.
Yeah.
It's tough to get everybody together. Tough to go ahead and visit them because they're so diverse in where they're going. Eventually, we see ourselves heading out to the East Coast since that's where at least three of them landed, so we can at least get to them by car.
Yes, wonderful. Well, hey, Rick, is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Funny story. There's so many stories out there. I can't think of any particular story, but to play on that, the one that you have on you talked about competitiveness, and you want to talk a little bit about that a little bit. So one of the things they always try to egg me on to get me into games, to get me to play games and family game, board games, different types of games at the holiday times. And being the competitive person, as I said, I don't like to lose, and I don't play a game unless I think I have the potential to win.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll sit back and I'll just watch the game and no, I don't want to play, and I'll just watch and play, and then eventually I'll jump in and they said, okay, well, he obviously understands how to play this and how to win it. And so that's how it ends up working out. But it usually takes some time to coax me to get in because I just don't like to lose. And there's pluses and minuses to that. I mean, over the years, I mean, that's been my mentality, and I'm sure I've missed out on a lot of things because I've chosen and I said, and I know immediately that things that I can and excel at are things I'm not going to be so great at, but right. But I know that if I put in the time in certain areas, I know that I can get myself to that area and win. But there's probably some areas that I've passed up that I probably could have jumped in and taken off with, but because of that personality trait, it just doesn't work out so well.
I can appreciate that. I'm a sore loser. So thank you for sharing. Hey, tell us how the business came about. So I know you said that you and your partner bought it, but at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Well, that starts off awful early in my life. So back when I was a kid, I started my own lawn business. And the interesting part is the way I started the lawn business is very similarly to how the business here for our transportation group started. So the way I started it was I found a lawnmower in a trash out of the curb, and I brought it home and I asked my mom if I could go ahead and put it together and or take it apart and put it back together, see if I can get it to work again.
Yeah.
And she said, yes, that'd be fine, just as long as you go ahead and make sure that you clean everything up and everything's out of the way so Dad can pull his car in the garage in the evening. So don't make a mess. So anyway, so I ended up figuring out what was the problem. It was a head gasket that wasn't working. I've always been very inquisitive on just how things work. And so I figured out there was a head gasket had blown. And so what I ended up doing is I fixed that. And then I went out around the neighborhood and I undercut all the kids that were cutting the grass. And this is going to date me. So I've been working for 34 years. So, back several years ago, back in 7th grade, cutting the grass in our neighborhood, the going rate was $8. I went in and undercut everybody at $7. I ended up picking up the business, and a couple years later, I had up to 14 yards plus vacations, which turned out to be 17. So I was doing 17 a week.
Okay.
And it taught me a bunch of things about business. It taught me about collections, providing a good service. Excuse me a minute. Besides, if you provide a good service, people are usually going to pay a little bit more. So while I started at $7, I started making 10 for most people because I thought I was doing a better job than what they were getting previously. So fast forward several years ago. So in 2003, I was working with a private equity company. It was a roll-up of various logistics companies east of the Mississippi. And we had several warehouses. We built it up to about 3.1 million square foot. Largest customer for us was PepsiCo. As I was driving through the various facilities we had, because we had, I think it was 8 to 10 different facilities here in the Midwest that we were operating. And there were a couple trucks in the back of one of the buildings. And I asked our maintenance group, what were those for? And they said, well, there's trucks that it's been about 8 years since they've actually used them. I said, I can tell the tires are flat. I said, let's either see if we can get them to work, or if we can't, let's scrap them out. So both of them had, interesting is the head gaskets for both of them were blown. So that's how we got into the business. Excuse me again. I came back from Long Beach conference, caught myself a little bit of cold on the way back. So anyway, so we started the business that direction, and then so then the other part of it is PepsiCo. So we started to run some shuttles, and then PepsiCo said they were frustrated that we weren't getting the product off the dock fast enough, and it was really because their carriers weren't showing up on time. And so we came to them with a solution that said, "Hey, we're not going to be your cheapest carrier that you have, but we're not going to be your most expensive carrier. But since we are the people moving the freight for you, or moving the product for you, we will know ahead of time. We'll know before you if a carrier is failing." So that's how we went to them, and that's how we built the business. We're going to provide a fair price and a great service, and that's how we started it. And that was in 2003. Shelli Austin, she and I had worked previously. She was the first person I called and said, "Hey, why don't we, would you like to start up this transportation group? I really want to put you in charge of the transportation. I got a lot of stuff, responsibility on the warehousing side and on the sales and marketing side, as well." So that's how we started back up. We got the team back together and started to build the business from there. And in 2016, there's a period of several buy and sell opportunities. So the ownership changed. But in 2016, we had an opportunity to purchase that because the owner really wanted to go into e-commerce and really focus their business on that, and thought that having transportation and warehousing was took away from their focus a bit. And they also wanted the cash to further invest in their warehousing operations. So we had an opportunity to purchase what we had. And as I said, a lot of the stuff that I learned back when I was a kid in terms of providing good service, working well with people, you got to collect cash, got to make sure you're making money,
right?
Invest back in the business. That's something that has always carried me through. And in my education and my first start in working in accounting and finance back at General Motors when I first came out of school, tremendous base of knowledge that I picked up during that time. And as I said, what I do well, Shelli doesn't much care for, and vice versa. And so we've been able to build the business since then.
Fantastic. So I want you to tell me a little bit more about the company. So what's the name? More specifically, what do you guys do? How do you help people?
So our name is InTek Freight Logistics. So we really focus on there's three stools of that support our business model. One is we're a non-asset freight provider, which I'll talk a little bit about more because that's our biggest piece of business, and what keeps the doors open. We also have a segment of our business where shippers can outsource all their transportation to us. They don't have to worry about it. They give us the tenders. They tell us when the freight's going to be available, when it needs to arrive at their customer, and we help negotiate the contracts for them. We do all the freight payment, audit, and reporting, and we take care about that for them, soup to nuts. And then there's another side where we go ahead and resell the technology that we've been using since 2007. So we're a reseller of the MercuryGate TMS, which is 450,000 people that log in that TMS across the world every day. We've been super fans of that, and we've had a great relationship with them. And they asked us several years back if we would be interested in being a reseller and an integrator, because they really were focusing their business on building out their technology and really working with large customers to integrate. And they weren't cost effective for the small and medium-sized shippers or logistics companies, and that's where we play with that side of the business. So on the non-asset side, which is what keeps our doors open, we are focused on domestic intermodal. So we really work with customers, shippers, to transition their truckload for either sustainability reasons or for capacity reasons or for pricing reasons. We try to transition them off of truckload and on domestic intermodal, where you take advantage of the flexibility that truck offers on the front and back end of a delivery, and you take care of the efficiency that comes through with the rail on the long haul piece of the freight. So we made that decision a long time ago, and it's paid off. A lot of people say, why would you ever want to get into that business? Because you're playing with the big players. Where the truckload business, there's about 700, 800,000 registered operators out there, most of which own like 97% of the capacity is coming from 10 or fewer trucks. Whereas intermodal, you're playing against people like JB Hunt, Schneider, Hub Group, which are mega companies, multi-billion-dollar balance sheets, and those are the people we compete against. We operate on the same docks as they do, and a lot of times we're sharing the same customer. So it just happens to be that we may provide a higher level of service on a lane that's more difficult to service, or we come in at a price that seems to match what the customer is hoping. Or the other piece is that there's that JB Hunt will ride on, say, BNSF Railroad, and we'll ride, our solution is coming across on the UP, CSX, Norfolk Southern. And so the customer wants to diversify their risk across different rail roads.
Sure, makes sense. I want to shift gears now here and talk a little bit about the impact that others have had on your business and on your personal growth. So, Rick, is there a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, even though maybe you didn't think that you could? And what was the impact that person had on you?
Well, it's hard to name a few. I mean, there's several that I can point to that did that.
Yeah.
I mentioned Deborah Monzik, who helped me push me into the operations to be able to play the game. I mentioned Shelli Austin. She's done a great job in terms of being able to balance the work on both sides. But I've had some really good mentors going in the General Motors days. Unfortunately, they're no longer with us. That really pushed me and made me think about the direction that I want to take my career. They gave me some really good career advice. That said that although I used it when I moved on, and that doesn't work that way. You can only use that when I tell you that you can only use it for General Motors. But any case, they gave me some really good advice. They said basically, if you basically look at your career as a pyramid, and you're always looking to go towards the point at the top. And they said if you start to brush on the sides, then something probably needs to change. Either you need to change, or the company that you're working with needs to change, or something needs to change direction if you're pushing on the sides and you're not heading straight to the top in the set of goals. And so people have given that to me. But I mean, I really go back to my parents, really. I was taught you put in the hard work, and what you earn your luck. It's not
I like
something
that. That's a great phrase.
It's just not something that happens. And my dad really instilled a lot of that into me. I mean, he really drove me. And some of the stories, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us either. But some of the stories I share with my mom today, she says, your dad would never say that. And I said, oh, absolutely he did. And I'm glad he did, because he really pushed me and really taught me that the only thing that you take with yourself to the grave is your word. And you better make good on that for yourself and the people that you surround yourself with. And I'll just throw one more in. I mean, my wife, she's, when I had the opportunity with Shelli to purchase this in 2016, she said, you've wanted to do this since you've been 7th grade. You've been talking about owning your own business for a very long time. And she said, do it. She said, I believe in you. I know you can do it. And so, and she says, what do we have to lose? She said, it's just stuff.
Yeah.
And we can recover that stuff. We've recovered that stuff previously, and hey, we can do it again. So, I as I said, I can't point to any one person.
Yeah.
Everybody's given me such great stuff.
Yeah. I the support of our wives is huge. I had a similar, experience when I was considering, starting my own business, and my wife was the same. Like, right, it's just stuff. You've always wanted to do this. The question she asked me was, if you don't do it in 5 years from now, will you look back and regret it? And I'm like, yeah, I probably will. And she's like, well, then let's go. Right.
Yeah. I thought that's a similar response that my wife gave me. She said, you just do it.
I like what you said earlier about your dad taught you that that hard work earns luck. It's just an awesome phrase because I don't believe there is such thing as luck, right? There are things that we do to attract, things to happen in our life, and hard work is one of those. And strategic thinking and planning and doing, right, are all things that are going to result in an outcome. So,
And
thank you for
constant
sharing that.
learning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, constant learning. I mean, I could throw that in there. I could be throwing self-awareness into there as well. And then I could throw in, surround yourself with really great people. I mean, so there's been some great companies that I've worked with or worked in, and it's amazing the talent that's there. And you can always learn from just as much what to do versus what not to do when you see these various people come up through the ranks. And
Sure.
I mean, you just get some really good advice, and sometimes it's intended to be given to you, and sometimes you just can see it, and you say, that's a piece that I'm going to take
Yeah.
with me further on.
Hey, Rick, what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
Um, Wow. I mean, there's a lot there too to unpack, but in terms of learning is that it doesn't come easy.
Mm.
The starting phrase, the starting base of where you build from, it takes a lot of effort. It takes perseverance. It takes dedication. It takes a belief that that your plan is going to work. What you bring to market is something that other people find value in and are willing to pay you for that service. And it just takes a lot of work. The first 3 years coming out in 2016, so 2016 through 2000, and it was really the end of 2016, so I'll really roll it into 2020. Those are tough years. And I think that from you're a business owner, so hey, you get to do whatever you want whenever you want to do
Right.
it. One of my sons said, "Hey, you don't have a boss anymore." Yeah, you do. It's the bank.
Yeah.
There's always a boss there, and your customers are your boss. The team that you build, they're your boss. You're there to serve them just as much as they're serving the customers. I mean, there's so many people that you have to balance, and you have to balance your time. I mean, one of the toughest parts in the process of really going from zero to nuts to something is that you got to balance your time, or you're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah. The stats are pretty significant in terms of the percentage of businesses that fail. Right? It can be up to 80%, depending on which article you're reading. And the number one reason for those failures, it has been noted as burnout. And typically what happens, right, is, people, they do that hustle and grind. And right now, unfortunately, social media is celebrating, right, that concept of the hustle and grind. But, people keep working and working and working. And then, they get where they just don't have any gas left. Right. And unfortunately, you just can't sustain that workload.
That's not sustainable. And if you're going to jump into going into business, it's something that you have to jump in with both feet and do a real commitment. It's not a try. Right. So one of the phrases that I've carried on to my kids is from what I call my favorite philosopher, Yoda, which is do or do not. There is no try.
Yes.
So that's really what it comes down to in starting a business. You're not trying to start it. You're not going to say, if it doesn't work out, in a couple months, I'll go try something else. No, you're going in with both feet and you're going to go do it. Yeah. And if you make that commitment and you did put a good plan together, and have some backing around that and support, it will happen. It's just, well, as you said, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. We thanks for sharing the Yoda quote. We use that in some of our seminars because we know from things like Think and Grow Rich and the law of attraction that success is 80 to 90% of what we think and believe. Right. So the try, right, is actually a subconscious cop out. Right. Because we can turn back and go, well, it didn't work out. At least I tried. right? Or I'll try
Right.
harder next time. But we're actually giving ourselves permission to fail by not committing to doing. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome.
One of my sons used it on his essay to get into college.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Hey, Rick, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of the biggest challenges you've had as a business owner and maybe a fellow business owner who, came alongside you and helped you through it.
Well, it was really in the starting phase of our business. We lost a lot of money,
Hmm.
lots of money. And the direction that we were headed was not a good direction. But in talking with others and teaming up with the right banking relationship and that really believed in our business model, we were able to change the direction that we were operating in, that allowed us to produce the profits to go ahead and turn the business around and really get it driven in the right direction. I mean, those first 3 years, we were negative net equity in a big way. Mm-hmm. And we had a nice term loan on us. That's where it gets where I get back to that perseverance and believing in what you have. And if there's any roadblocks in the way or anything that's broken in your business model that needs to be fixed, address it and address it quickly or as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. For us, it took a little bit of time, but we were able to change the direction and the way we operated. And through that change, we've been able to make big change for ourselves here, and for our team as well. So, I mean, it was rough the first 3 years. It was tough.
Yeah, the first 3 years are hard for everyone. There's a stat that says that most new business owners significantly overestimate the first 3 years of their business and then significantly underestimate the long-term potential in the business. And also what I've tended to see is there are a lot of folks who don't borrow enough money, right? They do it more bootstrapped, and because they don't anticipate all the different costs and oopses and mistakes that we're going to make in the first 3 years that, to your point, right, cost money. So not having the money available through an SBA loan or something like that can really hamper that first 3 years, where it's important to be able to do some testing and measuring and course correction and trial and error.
Well, there's a reason my hair is white. There's a reason that my hair is white, and it goes back to another thing that my dad taught me when I was young. So we used to play Monopoly, and so when I was a kid, and he would always tell me, "You need to spend money to make money. You need to spend money to make money." And I would be hoarding all that money in front of me, and then he would end up beating me because he was buying all the properties, putting houses and hotels on it. And then once I figured out, okay, well, he's right. It's going to be empty in front of my board for a bit, but if I play it right and I buy the right piece of property and I put the hotels in the right places based off of where I see his dice are rolling him to, then I can win the game.
Yes.
So there's just little things that just come along the way that just are always kind of popping up and just driving with the direction that you need to go. And you just need to listen to those voices and be self-aware about them.
Yeah, our gut and our instinct, right? Our subconscious, superconscious, whatever word you want to use, right, is very powerful, right? There is a message and a voice inside that's guiding and directing us, but we have to slow down, right, and be still and be able to hear what that instinct or gut's telling us, so that we can take advantage of what we already know in terms of what's the step.
That's the run in the morning, and we talked earlier. That's the cutting the grass at the end, and that has a beginning, middle, and end. Anyway, business doesn't have that. The door. I mean, we could work 24/7 if we really had if we didn't need any sleep.
Right.
But those time periods are great, and it's a great way to start your day. I start my day in a run. Or as that's why I like to work out in the yard. I put the earphones on and I'm in a whole new world, and I just have the start, middle, and end piece, and I get to look back and that looks nice.
Hey, Rick, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. If I was to ask you to pick three people in your business owner journey that you're most grateful for them being there to help contribute to the business's growth, who are those three people and how they help you?
Well, I keep going back to the same people. I go back to my wife, giving me the constant support. And when I'm working at 11 or midnight, we'll be watching a movie or whatever, and I say, hey, I got an email, I need to take care of it, and I'd rather put it on the company email address than just respond here on my phone.
Yeah.
She's always very supportive, and allows me to continue to push forward to where I need to be. Another one is Shelli Austin. There are days that she's super down about what's going on in the operation, and she comes back and she helps. Both of us help each other. So the days that we're down, thankfully, they're not the same days. Sometimes they are, but in any case, it's been a great partnership over 26 years. I mean, there's not been too many people that can say that. And it's not been just here at InTek. I mean, we worked at a couple companies prior together, where we built that trust, and that trust, it's evolved over time. It was a little bit more vocal of a trust, let's just say, at the beginning, as we challenge each other as we're trying to build and create. But now it's not so much that we're really on the same page, and we're rowing the same direction, and we're pushing each other forward, which is a really good thing. And then on the third, as I said, my dad's not here, but he's here.
Yeah, awesome. Rick, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you're going to face in terms of getting to the goals that you've set for the company, and who are the types of people you're going to need to help resolve those?
So, I mean, the tough things is technology. Technology is expensive. It's constantly changing. And we invest pretty heavily in it today. Outside of our HR line items on our P&L, it's really the cost of the technology and making sure that you're staying out in front of it. It's not only staying out in front of it for service reasons, it's staying out in front of it to stay efficient as well.
Sure.
So that's a super challenge out there, particularly being a small business, to make sure that you can find the right solutions that are economical for your stuff. Thankfully, technology is getting cheaper. It's just a matter of staying out in front of it, and it's really the cost of implementation is what's expensive anymore. But that's why we have the Mercury Gate side, because we get ourselves, our tech team actually pays for itself through doing the same types of things and being out in front of it with other companies similar to ourselves and shippers. So that's one. People. You can't get anything done without people. And so that's definitely we've got to build a team. We've got to build a team that is dedicated and they understand our cause, which our cause is to provide a higher level of service than shippers get themselves from other freight providers. So we have to provide that white glove type service for our customers. And then we've got our business relationships. So we're a non-asset company. So all we really have is service. So that, again, gets back to our technology and our people, and making sure that we're hiring the people that are energetic and want to be engaged with the business, ask questions, inquisitive, competitive works as well too, because they're always trying to find a better answer to what they're doing, so they can service the customer better. But then, since we don't own any assets, and really we're just a service, and I don't want to say just a service, because it is a service, and it gets people their shipments from point A to point B. It's our business partners that actually own those assets, and developing those relationships. That's taking time. It's not something that happens overnight. And at this point, we have business relationships that they come to us and say, hey, we see these opportunities out here that others aren't taking advantage of. You're the service provider. We're the asset provider. Let us be good at what we do. You do what you do best, and come in with solutions. So, I mean, those three things in terms of trying to put those together with the right mixture. I mean, you're baking a cake.
Yes.
And you're trying to put the right balance of ingredients, so you get the best tasting cake at the end of the day. And it has to look good too, because you've got to go ahead and you got to market, and tell people what you're all about. I mean, and that's difficult. I mean, we're not, our name isn't FedEx, our name isn't UPS, our name isn't JB Hunt. Who in the heck is InTek? So you've got to get your name out there. You've got to build your brand.
Right.
And really, and that brand needs to mean something when people go to that. So, I mean, I get that you're networking at conferences, you're talking at conferences, you try to be in thought leadership on key industry magazines. For us, we do a lot of publishing of blogs that really drive most of our traffic. We have about 50,000 people that come to our website asking questions. I mean, they're Googling questions of how can I do this better? How can I do that better? And that's how people find us.
Yeah.
Same thing in the podcast. We really got this year into the podcasts and into other video ways that people can find us, because that buyers are a bit different than what they used to be. Buyers used to be, you can make phone calls and they're going to pick up the phone. You could send emails and they're going to answer the emails. Right. They're getting inundated by so much noise out there today. So it's really, how do you get your voice out there without being the noise that they're going to head and delete or be annoyed with, that even if you do see them at a conference, they're going to want to talk with you. You just gave me 15 emails in the last 2 days. I don't want to talk to you. Clearly, you're done. So those are, I mean, I really touched on four different areas that are challenges, and that's what we're going to do. Those are the things that we need to mix to the proper level to go ahead and go out to and continue to build the business, because that's it. You've got to grow. We're not going to be, our goal isn't to be like the multi-billion-dollar company. We always want to be in that mid-market logistics size company that can provide a higher level of service, where the owners, Shelli and I, are involved in our customers' business every day. We don't see ourselves not knowing what's going on with our operations managers and our customer managers. That helps us provide a service. Also gives our customers a different feel than what they get from working with others, where they may see their top brass and top talent. You know, they may see them once a year, maybe twice a year. Right. They know that they can hear from us at any time during the year.
Wonderful. Last question here, Rick. Jim Rohn says that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So as you think about that quote, what advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own?
Yes. Same thing I had for my kids growing up. Surround yourself with high quality people. You'll raise to the level that they operate at. Don't be afraid that you're not the smartest person in the room. As a matter of fact, don't be the smartest person in the room. Find yourself that you feel that you're being challenged by your peers or people that you would like to be peers, and you're not quite there yet. And really follow that. And, you know, so you're talking 5 people. Yeah, I absolutely make sure that those 5 people are people that you look up to. And, you know, in challenging times, look at what they did in their challenging times. Ask them in their challenging times. And you may find out that one of those people is not, you know, to the level that you think they may be. And you might want to toss one out and throw another one into the bunch. Right. Or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, you need to surround yourself with high quality people that you know that if you picked up your phone and made a phone call to them, that they would go ahead and they'd answer it. And you respect what they have to say. And and listen. I mean, you need to listen. If you're going to pick up the phone, just like if you go to a doctor and they say you got a problem, you need to listen to the doctor. You go to an attorney, you need to listen to them. You're just going to say, never mind. You know, that's what they said, but I don't believe them.
You're right. Hey, Rick, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people in your business owner journey that have helped you along the way. If they were all here on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
Enormously grateful. Thank you.
I love it. Hey, Rick, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Tim. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
To everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made as a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread this movement by liking the show and posting about it on your social media. And to join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.